Hey, kid. A little young for a bartender, aren't you?
A little old for prom, aren't you?
Everything in here. Why the map?
It's the biggest treasure that's never been found.
5 billion, easy.
But it's just a story.
I beg to differ.
500 years ago, my family found the world's biggest fortune, then was betrayed.
Boy, you know my brother Sid?
You have no idea who you partnered with.
What else aren't you telling me?
The victor spoils.
How are they gonna get them out of here?
What's going on, everyone? Welcome. Today we're going to talk about Uncharted, the movie. I'm the great talent here, and I'm sorry, I just had a total loss of train of thought because I am just so glamored about how good this movie was, and that you can immediately tell without me not being fully transparent here, and me being fully transparent here, that this movie was awesome. It was a great ride. A lot of people probably might disagree, maybe not, but all I can say, everything that just keeps coming to mind is just fuck the critics. Because the critics, if you actually really, and I just want to briefly bring this up, I don't really do this often, but I just want to bring this up just to show you the kind of idiocracy that the critics have nowadays. The critics, I just picture critics as like these angry, either they're one of two extremes. They're either very angry, miserable, very old people, or they're angry, miserable, very young people, Generation Z. You can never, either way, either old or young, they've never experienced these video games. Nor do they have the sense of appreciation and admiration that the people who actually went into making this movie and like directing and writing this movie actually, and even the performances by all of the actors, which we'll get into in a little bit, were just phenomenal. I thought they were really good. They were really like they did a one for one. But just to go to show you the idiocracy we're dealing with, folks. Before I get into my review, hold on. Like, if you could see my screen, folks, obviously, if you look at the screen right now, Uncharted has a 39% score for critics with 183 critic scores reviews. 39% go fuck yourselves. And an audience score of 90% based on 1,000 plus verified ratings. Granted, I know some of the ratings are just like, fabricated for the most part. But with that being said, that could also be the case for critic reviews that could be like kind of just negative for on purpose because they just fucking like, what's this nonsense? They're trying to be a modern day Indiana Jones. Fuck off. Yeah, but it's fun. And not only that, they really are doing like I keep saying, a one for one. It is like, honestly, folks, if you've never played the Uncharted games, okay, I'm gonna go back to the beginning, rewind a little bit. If you've never played the Uncharted games, Uncharted is a action-adventure game series, heavily inspired adventure games that are heavily inspired from Indiana Jones, like avenues and venues, like National Treasure, like modern-day type of movies, more so on the Indiana Jones front, treasure hunting. Modern-day Indiana Jones. They even make fun of themselves in the movie. They say Indiana Jones in the movie. They little Indiana Jones like a little pun there, and it's kind of fun. And Uncharted is like, it follows the story of Nathan Drake. The first Uncharted game was called Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and it was about him going to find he's like a descendant of like this pirate of Sir Francis Drake, and he's trying to in the game series, just trying to find his like old ancient treasure from his like, he thinks it's like his birthright, his like fortune or whatever, and it kind of goes in, it kind of segues off into the sequels and whatnot, and it kind of comes full circle in the end at the fourth game. But this movie was about pretty much, I keep straying off, but fact of the matter is, if you've never played the Uncharted games, is what I'm trying to say. The point I'm trying to make and come across is, if you've never played the Uncharted video games, I would like to say you're not going to have a good time, but no, you should still have a good time, even if you've never experienced them. If you go into this movie looking for just an action-adventure an action-adventure movie, it delivers. It's not only has a lot of action, but it also has a lot of puzzle solving and a lot of mystery surrounding it. A lot of like heist things, like kind of clever puzzle like aspects and avenues where they gotta solve clever puzzles, and they gotta like They have to be like a lot of espionage and subterfuge plays a big part in the Uncharted games, and they carry that and they kind of copy and paste it to the movie here, and they do it so well. I mean, I understand, like, it's a lot better than the other fucking video game adaptations we've got in the past, like, Tomb Raider. As much as I liked the Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider movies, even though she didn't really look the part, I have issues with those movies as it's like the story was kind of shitty for the most part, and this story here was kind of touching and endearing. It's the story of just him trying to, like, finish what him and his brother, like, first started when they were, like, orphan kids in this orphanage, and, like, they're, like, big history buffs, and their parents, like, either abandoned them or they passed away. They weren't really clear on that. I think they passed away or whatever, or disappeared. And, yeah, he's just, like, he connects with this guy named Sully, who's character exactly from the game, like his, like, father-like, he becomes, like, his, like, father-like figure or whatever. And yeah, he encounters, like, these other, like, thieves or like people who are, like, you know, into the thieves game, like Chloe, who's from the video game. I'm glad that the characters somewhat sounded and felt the part, even though they didn't look like it for the most part. Like, for example, Sully, Mark Wahlberg. I'm not a really big Mark Wahlberg fan, but he had the personality of Sully, even though he didn't look like him. And even though at the end of the movie he got the mustache or whatever, but he's just not, he's not salt and pepper or even, like, just salt, like, how Sully was all white. Nathan Drake is 12 years old now, which is fine. I mean, they're kind of banking off, like, the third Uncharted game, where it takes you back to the first quarter of the game. You play as a very, like, young Nathan Drake, so I kind of understand that in his, like, early 20s or late teens or whatever. But he's, like, they played off where he's in his mid 20s here, which is accurate. That's Tom Holland's age. I think Tom Holland's a great actor, but that being said, like I said, even if you have never seen the Uncharted movies, you will get something out of this. You should get something out of this. It's a really good action-adventure flick. There's crazy fucking... There's, like... Honestly, there are some Fast and Furious levels of ridiculousness going on, which is fine, because that's what the games were. Falling out of cargo planes, hanging onto the cargo, getting run over by cars in fucking midair, air pirate ship battles like from the trailer, which was... To see that happen in IMAX, folks, was a delight. Honestly, you have two fucking cargo choppers carrying two old-ass pirate ships from the 1500s, 16th century, and they're fucking fighting with cannonballs firing at each other, and they're swinging back and forth with, like, fucking guns and swords and shit like that, and I'm like, oh, this is a good time, man. Like, if you don't like that shit, then you should never even say, I want to go see this movie in the first place. If you walk into this movie expecting anything less than what I just said right now, then what the hell are you even doing in the movie theater watching this anyway? You should be watching some rom-com bullshit, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is, overall, in a nutshell, don't ever listen to critics. Formulate your own opinions. Go to these movies yourselves if you have mild interest, or if you're a fan of the series or the brand or whatever, the franchise, and just give it a go for yourself. And then, like me, that's why I go in these movies with low expectations, like I did here. But as I went in there, as the movie, like, played out and progressed, I said to myself, wow, I'm actually starting to really enjoy this movie. I'm very glad I went in not expecting much, and I'm glad I got something more out of it. But it wasn't even like that. Like, I went in expecting, like, mild expectations, very, very low to mediocre expectations, and I went out, this movie exceeded my expectations tenfold. The story was pretty, like I said, endearing before. The action was on point, very, very heavily action-oriented. The chemistry between Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg is almost unmatched. And, like, when you talk about, like, an adaptation, formula I'm talking about. So, in an adaptation formula, like, kind of like Sully and Nate, they've always had this chemistry in the games. Like I said, there's like a father-like figure, but it's like also a camaraderie type of thing. And it's like they're developing that, they're brewing that here. Remember, this is like an origin story, so they don't first they don't trust each other. Then by the end of the movie, they develop that, like, unspoken, like, bond or whatever, like unofficial bond. And I thought it was pretty touching and endearing. I thought it was great. I thought the girl who played Chloe, she kind of looked like the part a little bit. I mean, she had an Australian accent like Chloe did, but I don't know. You just can't replace Claudia Black as the voice for Chloe, because her voice is very distinct and very awesome. But she did what she could, the best for the most part. The parkour, running and jumping off of fucking buildings and shit like that, climbing up buildings, the choreography, the fight choreography was literally, it was so, like, poetically orchestrated where it was just like almost a one-for-one from the games. A lot of the Easter eggs from the games are present in the movie, like the cargo plane that was from Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, when he was flying out of the cargo plane. It was in a desert area, but here it was like in the water, because I get it, you can't fall in sand and expect the audience to believe you're gonna live unless you're in a video game. So in the water, and then you had like the story, like the puzzle solving, like on the maps and everything like that, and then it was just so cool to see all of that unfold and make sense, because a lot of these shit like might not make sense. Like for example, the Resident Evil movie, like the Operation, Welcome to Raccoon City. As much as I wanted to like that movie, it was just a clusterfuck. They crammed like 3 video games or 2.5 video games in one movie, and then they tried to do with the puzzles in the mansion, and it just fucking didn't work. Here, it's so like they're just doing this as an art. There's so many stories. There's 4 Uncharted games, right? So there's like 4 stories to tell, but they're doing their own thing, obviously, but they're doing it. They're playing the long game, folks. They're creating a movie franchise now. They already got the game franchise. Now they're creating a fucking movie franchise, and they're trying to build up like kind of like a mini like Indiana Jones type thing. Like this is the first movie. We're gonna like have some legacy characters. Like they have Sully, they got Chloe. They didn't bring in Elena. Elena, if you're not familiar with her, she is the main love interest of Nathan Drake. They didn't bring in Naomi. She was in the Uncharted 4 game and Uncharted the spin-off game, Lost Legacy. And there's a couple of missing characters. Now, the end of the movie, without spoiling anything, it does bring in, like, I think one of the main villains from one of the games. I forget which game. But so now they're going to segue. They already have a post-credit scene. They're already ready to go into the sequel. So, yeah, no, I thought it was a great ride, folks. And if you're a fan of the games, you're going to get a lot more out of this like I did, which is why, since I'm a fan of the games, I'm going to score it the way that I enjoyed it, because I'm a fan of the game. If I had to score Uncharted on the movie on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a great movie, very enjoyable flick. If you did not play the games or experience in the games in any way, shape, or form, I think it's still enjoyable. I think you might find it like a solid 7 or a solid just flick. And if you don't, then, well, to each their own. So what more can I say? But I thought it was great. They even had, I don't want to spoil anything, I really don't, but there's one Easter egg in this movie. One person shows up in this movie that as soon as you see them, this Easter egg, I should say, it's just gonna bring a big cheese to your face, and you will get something out of it only if you are a fan of the video games and you see this unfolding, this Easter egg, this one Easter egg, and you're gonna be like me. I was just like, oh shit, I can't believe it. And then the line, the way it's just, I don't want to spoil it anymore, but what happens in this one Easter egg is just, it's so good. So with that being said, before I spoil anything more or whatever, I'm just going to wrap this up. So yeah, Uncharted was fun. It was a fun movie. It's probably, if I had to rank, one day I'm going to do a ranking of the best video game movies of all time, and this is probably the number 1. I think before this, it was Mortal Kombat for me. I really love Mortal Kombat. A lot of people did the 2021 movie. I thought it was fantastic. A lot of people enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I got the Blu-ray. Like, I'm going to own this on Blu-ray 4K as well. I already got it in my wish list at Amazon. I'm a sick man. But, yeah. Anyway, with that being said, that is my review of Uncharted. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch everybody next time. Thanks, as always, for stopping by.